January 3rd, 2026. Caracas, Venezuela. The time is 2:01 a.m. The reinforced steel door glows orange as Delta Force operators cut through with blowtorches. Sparks cascade down the darkened hallway. Radio chatter crackles. 30 seconds to safe room. Inside the compound, Nicolás Maduro is running. His wife, Celia Flores, behind him. Their bare feet slap against marble floors. The panic room is 20 feet ahead. 15 feet. 10 feet. Behind them, the outer door breaches. The sound is deafening. Gunfire erupts immediately. One extraction helicopter takes rounds through the fuselage but stays airborne. Delta Force operators flood through the breach point, moving with speed and precision.
Moving right! Keep pace!
Maduro's hand reaches for the safe room door handle. It won't seal. The mechanism jams. 7 seconds too slow. Operators round the corner. Within seconds, both Maduro and Flores are on the ground, zip-tied, being dragged toward the extraction point. The entire sequence, from breach to capture, takes less than 3 minutes. But this 3-minute operation didn't begin at 2 a.m. in a Caracas compound. It began 6 months earlier, in August 2025, when a small CIA team slipped into Venezuela with one mission: learn everything about how Nicolás Maduro lives, moves, and hides. How do you capture the head of state in 3 minutes? To understand how it all started, we need to go back 5 months. The CIA operatives who entered Venezuela in August 2025 weren't carrying weapons. They were carrying cameras, telephoto lenses, and patience. Their assignment was simple on paper: establish pattern of life surveillance on the Venezuelan president. In practice, it was operating in one of the most hostile environments imaginable. Discovery didn't just mean capture, it meant an international incident that could derail the entire operation before it started. The team tracked everything: Maduro's movement patterns between safe houses, his daily routines, when he ate breakfast, when he held meetings, when his security rotations changed shifts. They cataloged his communications patterns, the devices he used, the bodyguards who stayed closest. And they found something useful. Most days, Maduro's convoy was unpredictable. 3 armored SUVs, 8 bodyguards, 2 chase vehicles. The route to the presidential palace changed constantly, seemingly random. But on Thursdays, the pattern broke. Every Thursday, he visited the same location, Casa de los Pinos, inside Fuerte Tiuna. That repetition was about to become his vulnerability. Fuerte Tiuna isn't just a military base. It's Venezuela's largest military complex, sitting in central Caracas like a fortress within a fortress. Casa de los Pinos, Maduro's safe house, sits inside the Guaycaipuro neighborhood within that base. Venezuelan ruling party leader Nahum Fernandez would later confirm this was where Maduro and his wife were located when captured. The compound was designed for exactly this scenario. Heavily reinforced steel doors, specifically engineered to resist breach attempts. A secure safe room that could seal in under 10 seconds once activated. Integration within the larger military base, providing multiple layers of armed security. President Trump would later describe it as a house that was more like a fortress and a heavily fortified military stronghold. The CIA surveillance team mapped every detail, every entrance, every guard rotation, every camera angle. And critically, they timed how long it took Maduro to move from his bedroom to his safe room: 43 seconds. That was the window. From the moment Maduro heard a breach to the moment that safe room door sealed shut, 43 seconds. If he made it inside, the operation was over. The door was designed to withstand sustained assault. Even with blowtorches, cutting through would take minutes they didn't have. Delta Force would have to breach the compound, navigate the interior, locate Maduro, and secure him in less time than it takes to microwave popcorn. But there was a bigger problem. Even if they could move that fast, even if the intelligence was perfect, They still had to reach Caracas, and Caracas was protected by layered air defense systems designed to shoot down exactly the kind of helicopters Delta Force would be flying. The intelligence passed from CIA analysts to military planners in late 2025. Delta Force, the Army's elite special operations unit, began training for the raid using the same method that preceded the operation that killed Osama bin Laden, a full-scale replica. Somewhere on a U.S. military base, construction crews built an exact model of Casa de los Pinos. Same dimensions, same door placements, same hallway lengths. For months, Delta Force operators rehearsed the breach over and over, timing every movement, practicing every contingency. They trained specifically with industrial blowtorches, learning to cut through reinforced steel doors in seconds rather than minutes. The doors at Casa de los Pinos were custom-built to prevent exactly this kind of breach. Delta Force practiced until they could defeat them faster than the doors designers thought possible. According to sources, the CIA's ground intelligence provided extraordinary insight into Maduro's pattern of life that made grabbing him seamless. But seamless execution required solving a problem no amount of training could fix: Venezuela's air defense network. Before Christmas 2025, President Trump approved the operation. The planning was complete, the training was finished, the intelligence was current. But actually launching the raid meant fighting through radar installations, surface-to-air missile batteries, and fighter jets protecting Caracas airspace. Extracting Maduro wasn't just a special operations problem. It was an air war that had to be won in minutes without looking like an invasion. The strike had to be perfect in every single directive. January 2nd, 2026, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. U.S. officials approved the launch of air assets across 20 bases in the Western Hemisphere. Pilots received final briefings, mission parameters downloaded into navigation systems. Weapons armed. By 10:46 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, President Trump authorized the operation to proceed. 150 aircraft launched in coordinated action. This wasn't a surgical strike. This was an overwhelming force disguised as precision. F-22 Raptors for air superiority, EA-18G Growlers carrying electronic warfare pods to jam Venezuelan radar, Tomahawk cruise missiles programmed for specific air defense nodes, B-2 Spirit bombers for hardened targets that needed destruction, and hidden somewhere in that massive formation, flying low and dark, extraction helicopters carrying Delta Force operators toward Caracas. The American aircraft entered Venezuelan airspace during the darkest hours of January 2nd. As they approached Caracas, the Joint Air Component began systematically dismantling the air defense network that protected the capital. Venezuelan radar operators saw the strikes but couldn't respond, their screens filled with false contacts generated by electronic warfare systems, their communications jammed with white noise. Missile batteries received target locks that disappeared the moment operators tried to engage. Precision weapons hit radar installations first, blinding the network. Then, surface-to-air missile sites eliminate the threat to helicopters. Air defense command centers went dark as Tomahawks punched through hardened bunkers. The strikes concentrated heavily at Fuerte Tiuna itself, where air defense systems protecting the military complex needed to be neutralized before helicopters could approach. By the time Venezuelan air defense commanders understood what was happening, the corridor was already open, and the helicopters were already over Caracas. But time was of the essence, and they had less than 3 minutes to touchdown, arrest him, and carry him away. Inside Casa de los Pinos, Maduro was unaware. His security detail heard explosions across the city, but assumed they were isolated strikes, harassment, maybe another round of U.S. saber rattling. They didn't realize the entire air defense network was being systematically destroyed to create a corridor for something much worse. At 2:01 a.m., local Caracas time, extraction helicopters descended into Fuerte Tiuna. The operation plan was brutally simple: 3 minutes from touchdown to extraction. Any longer, and the Venezuelan military response would become overwhelming. Ground forces would converge. Backup air defense systems not yet destroyed would come online. The window would close. Delta Force hit the compound with speed and precision. The apprehension force descended from helicopters and moved toward their objective, carrying heavy weapons and blowtorches in case the intelligence about reinforced doors was accurate. It was. The moment they reached the main entrance, they knew this wasn't a normal breach. The doors were solid, reinforced steel, exactly as CIA surveillance had reported, designed specifically to prevent what was about to happen. Delta Force cut through them in 12 seconds. The sound of the breach was unmistakable, metal screaming as it gave way to industrial heat. The crash occurred as the door section fell inward. Inside, Maduro heard it. So did Cilia Flores. They both knew exactly what that sound meant. They ran, 43 seconds from bedroom to safe room. That was the window the CIA had calculated. Maduro had practiced this. His security team had drilled the evacuation procedure. 43 seconds to reach the panic room, seal the door, and wait for rescue. But Delta Force had trained to beat that window. Gunfire erupted as operators encountered security personnel. One extraction helicopter took rounds through the fuselage, but remained airborne, the pilot fighting to maintain position for extraction. FBI agents accompanying the assault force pushed through the breach point alongside Delta operators. President Trump would later describe what happened next.
They just broke in, and they broke into places that were not really able to be broke into, with steel doors that were put there for just this reason, and they got taken out in a matter of seconds.
Maduro's hand reached the safe room door handle. 30 seconds since the breach. The mechanism should have sealed immediately. It didn't. The door jammed. Electronic lock failure, mechanical malfunction, or Delta Force cutting power to the system, whatever the cause. The safe room that was supposed to protect Maduro became a dead end. He was unable to seal it off. Delta Force operators rounded the corner. Maduro and Flores were apprehended within seconds. Both zip-tied. Both were moving toward extraction before Venezuelan forces outside the compound even understood what was happening. The capture itself took less than 3 minutes from breach to secure. Within 3 minutes of touchdown, both targets were aboard extraction helicopters, lifting off from Fuerte Tiuna. Immediately, the helicopters started to depart Venezuelan airspace. But going from here to international airspace was the last and most difficult part of the hurdle. The extraction helicopters didn't fly directly to the United States. They headed for international waters, where the USS Iwo Jima waited offshore. Venezuelan military radar operators watched the helicopters exit their airspace. They had fighter jets that could scramble, pilots ready to intercept, but US F-22s were still overhead, maintaining air superiority. Any move toward those helicopters meant direct engagement with American fighters. Maduro was 12 nautical miles from Venezuelan territorial waters, then 20, then beyond any immediate response capability. The transfer to USS Iwo Jima was swift. Both Maduro and Flores were moved from helicopter to ship, held in temporary detention aboard the warship, while the diplomatic and legal machinery began moving. Almost exactly 1 hour after extraction, at approximately 4:20 a.m. Eastern Time, President Trump announced the capture to the world. His statement was blunt. Maduro and his wife will soon confront the full force of American justice. Inside Venezuela, The announcement triggered immediate panic. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez was reportedly sworn in as acting president. She immediately demanded the immediate release of Maduro and his wife, asserting that Venezuela's territorial sovereignty was brutally attacked. A state of emergency was declared. But the real panic wasn't happening in official statements. It was happening among ruling party officials who understood exactly what the U.S. had just seized along with Maduro. Access to communications, documents, intelligence about financial networks and drug trafficking operations that implicated dozens of high-ranking regime members. Reports indicated high-ranking officials fleeing the country. By sunrise on January 3rd, private jets were leaving Caracas filled with regime insiders who weren't waiting to see what happened next. But the main drama is about to unfold in New York. Maduro and Flores remained aboard USS Iwo Jima through Friday, January 3rd. The warship served as secure detention, while federal prosecutors in New York finalized the legal framework for their arrival. On Saturday, January 3rd, they were flown from the warship to New York. The flight itself was kept away from public tracking, likely using military transport rather than civilian aviation to avoid any complications or security risks. They arrived Saturday evening and were immediately transported to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, the same facility that has held high-profile defendants, including R. Kelly and Ghislaine Maxwell. 4 federal charges were waiting: narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and money laundering. Combined, these charges carry a potential life imprisonment sentence. Attorney General Pamela Bondi stated Maduro would face trial on narco-terrorism charges. His first court appearance was scheduled for Monday, January 5, 2026. 4 federal counts, potential life imprisonment. But just hours before the raid, Maduro had met with a Chinese envoy, celebrating what he called the perfect union between Venezuela and China. That timing raised questions no official statement addressed. China had loaned Venezuela $19 billion, repaid in oil shipments. Russia held energy contracts worth billions more. Trump made his intentions clear immediately after the capture. We're going to extract a vast amount of wealth from the ground. He promised American oil companies would take control of Venezuela's reserves, the largest on Earth. Only 11% of the cocaine that funnels into the U.S. is actually from Venezuela. The drug charges provided legal cover, but analysts noted the geopolitical math. One operation eliminated Chinese influence in America's hemisphere, stranded $19 billion in Beijing loans, and positioned U.S. corporations to claim oil fields previously controlled by rival powers. 43 seconds decided Maduro's fate, but oil, not cocaine, may have decided the timing. If you want to understand what this operation really means, the courtroom charges versus the backroom deals, subscribe now. Because the trial from Monday started answering legal questions, the oil contracts being negotiated behind closed doors will answer everything else.